Hey everybody, my name is Carmen and I am a participating artist on Icons Unite, and I have decided to interview myself for this part of the launch of this project that James has so beautifully founded. And so I'm going to go through these questions and answer them as best I can. The first question is essentially introduce the freedom-themed song that you are posting. And the song that I'm featuring on my portion of Icons Unite is called Something Great. And Something Great, to be perfectly honest, was originally inspired by a good friend of mine and a personal relationship. But when I met James and I joined this project and was thinking very much about various freedom-based causes and human rights in general, this song would not leave my mind. And the truth is that it's because the song is about essentially being on the brink, on the verge of total enlightenment in terms of being truthful about who you are and about what you want. And I, being the optimist that I am, really do sincerely believe that we as a global community, as a people, are very much moving in the direction of being on that sort of verge of the peace, really, that comes from that kind of truth and that kind of acknowledgement of real sort of basic existence, just the very existence of each other and what it means to kind of support and honor that kind of preciousness of life. Not to wide brush strokes, but that's essentially it. So this song, Something Great, is essentially about how great it is that we have that potential and we have that possibility, and I have to believe that we do, because if I believed otherwise, I wouldn't see any point in doing anything, and that just seems like a horrible way to live. So the next song, what inspired you to write that song? So I sort of said it really was inspired by a friend of mine and a personal relationship, and now what inspires me when I play it, it's essentially 8 years old, maybe 7, 8 years old. When I play it now, it does feel much bigger than me. It feels bigger than that relationship. It feels bigger than that person or myself. It feels like a statement about the beauty of potential and the beauty of doing better and doing good. And I do love that the name is Something Great, because it is truly something great that what James is doing. It's something great that people are doing humanitarian efforts all the time and all over the world to educate people and mobilize people and enlighten people. I just think that is something great. So it seems like the most appropriate song. Continuing with the interview, why do you connect with that cause? Why do I connect with that cause? The cause, I guess, that I'm attaching myself to in this context is the freedom of speech, which I think is ultimately the great umbrella for the freedom to be, the freedom to exist, the freedom to exist fully and completely and truthfully in who we each are. So why do I connect with that cause? Gosh, why don't I connect with that cause? I mean, I can't imagine my own life being limited or stifled by barriers that would keep me on a daily basis from being who I am. And that's because I'm truly grateful and blessed to have been born in a time and in a place where for the most part my right to be and speak as I am and who I am is protected and is supported. It isn't that way all around the world. I absolutely think it should be. And it's much greater than country. It's much greater than culture. It is human. It is love. It's so much bigger than even the collection of all of us globally. that right to simply just be as we are living, however that is. So that's why it seems like the most basic thing in the world to me. It's baffling. It's baffling that we even fight for such for such a thing, that we even have to. Do you have a favorite charity related to that cause? So I've been thinking about this a lot, this particular question, because there are so many charities and there are so many people doing good, and so many organizations. I think of the ACLU because I think of what it means to defend these basic liberties, the freedom, as I keep saying, the freedom to exist, which really is sort of that umbrella to speak freely, to print freely, to act freely, to exist freely. And there are parts of the world, of course, where that isn't a given the way that it is for me and probably for many of you. And we need people who are inspired to defend the folks who are being disenfranchised. So I think of the ACLU because they are big, they are mobilized, they're established, they are wide sweeping in terms of the kinds of cases, the kinds of people, the kinds of situations that they represent. It feels very much like the sort of the full spectrum scope that talking about freedom of speech, the freedom to be and exist, feels like to me. It's quite broad. It's sort of all encapsulating, and so that's the organization that I personally regularly support, and I feel very inspired by. Next question: how has that connection influenced you beyond your music? I think this question is about the connection that I have to this cause. How has it influenced me beyond my music? I mean, my whole life, I think, just on a very individual, personal level, day by day level, is influenced by the right and freedom to speak, which I do feel is the same thing as to exist, to be, because we speak in so many different ways. Obviously, we use our mouths, but we speak in our expressions, our dress, our choices are all speech. And the way that influences me is in my true commitment to the idea that those around us and those we encounter and interact with are living. They're being themselves. They're doing exactly what we're doing, which is minute by minute making choices and moving along their path. And if that's true, and I believe that that's true, then it really is sort of none of my business to question or challenge or disagree or judge. Quite frankly, that's the point, to judge those choices and what they're doing. I value my own opportunity to choose down my path, and if I honor that and I respect that, then I must honor and respect that of anyone else. And if that's true, then however and whatever is spoken by anyone else is utterly valid. I mean, my whole life is influenced by this concept, so I've been totally influenced by it, just to answer that question. The next question is, why do you think music is a good platform for global change? I started appreciating and being musical, appreciating music and being musical from probably day one of my entire life. My whole family is musical in one way or another, and so music has had a profound effect on me, and I observe and I am aware of the fact that music somehow often manages to cut right through a lot and impact and affect and draw out many people all the time. It's something that is somehow both physical and also spiritual, it's mental, but it's also physical. It kind of hits us at all of our sort of sensory little moments simultaneously. And you don't have to be a musician to appreciate that. I think most people are musical, and the reason I think that is because I think most people feel something from music. And if you're feeling something when you're listening to music, then there's some part of you that's musical. I've forever thought that. So it's a great place and platform for global change, because it's something that has that visceral power to bring people together, even when everything else on the table is different. That just feels like kind of a given to me. And the other thing is that music is fun, and when it's not fun, it's challenging, and when it's not challenging, it's evocative. So it has the potential to move you in so many different ways that it has the potential to move many different people. So it's a perfect platform. Yeah. Okay. So next question. Actually, this is the last question. What is your moral compass? Okay. Well, that's a big question. There's a second part of that question, which is, are there inspirational sayings, proverbs, spiritual teachings, philosophies that reflect who you are and who you want to be? I'll start with the giant part of that question, which is, what is your moral compass? And I unequivocally know that my moral compass is very quite simply love. With a big, giant capital L. Love means to me choosing anything other than fear. And when you know that there is the choice, whether you're facing a situation you don't like, or a person you disagree with, or a circumstance you wish were different, when you choose love over fear, you can actually do anything. You can face the challenge, face the person, change the circumstance you don't like. When you're fearful, you become stuck, you become paralyzed, you become isolated and limited. And not to overly simplify such a fantastic concept, but when asked, what is your moral compass? That's a very, very easy answer. It's love. And the second part is, are there inspirational sayings, proverbs, teachings, etc., that reflect who you are, who you want to be? I feel like I connect to so many different kind of like spiritual paths or camps. Ultimately, I think most often they're all saying very much the same thing in a slightly different language with different metaphors, but ultimately teaching the same thing. And I believe personally that same thing is that you can choose love and not fear. So I won't say that I have a particular religion or spiritual a camp that I align myself with. But this is kind of silly because it's not a traditional proverb, but one of my most favorite sayings, if it is a saying, it's something that I say a lot or think about a lot, that someone clearly said to me at one point, that the only safe or honest thing to assume ever about anyone or anything is that you have no idea what is so for anyone or anything. We don't actually ever know what a person is dealing with, living with, challenged by, growing through, surviving, experiencing, etc. And because that is always the case, whatever you encounter, and I'm talking, on the biggest scale, whatever we encounter as a country, whatever any group of people encounters, and on the most simple level, whatever I encounter tomorrow or 5 minutes from now, is going to be full of that very simple truth, which is that I don't actually know what's so for anyone else. And that being the case, anything that happens outside of me is not personal to me. And that's why I can come on board and feel inspired by this project, and also know that surviving the catastrophe that we've inflicted on each other begins with staying true to ourselves as individuals and forgiving and allowing everything else, anything and everyone else outside of ourselves. Because ultimately, that freedom of speech, that freedom to be, begins with us. And if I want to have the freedom to be and exist, then I damn well sure be committed to any other individual's right and freedom to be and exist and speak. I have no idea if any of that made any sense and came through, but I enjoyed answering these questions. I'm just delighted to be part of this. I appreciate what James has created already, and everyone else involved with this incredible project. I love that it's through music, and I love that I'm a part of it. So thank you for listening to my interview for Icons Unite, and may we all be in peace.